That you'd be here at the moment to witness this, because you're about to see something that will astonish you, truly unbelievable.
Hi everyone, KylaTea here, and it's time yet again to check back into the HAZBIN Hotel. It's been about 4 years since I last talked about anything Vivzy Pop, or rather Vivian Madrano related. I did promise a hell of a boss review of the trailer and the pilot, but to be honest, I was more invested in the world and characters that HAZBIN Hotel created, and it seems so was A24. It wasn't too long after the HAZBIN Hotel pilot broke the internet that A24 and Amazon Prime came in busting through hell to declare we want to make a deal. A pandemic and some time later, we have an 8-episode musical series done with animation studio Bento Box Entertainment. Now, with a nice budget and production team behind them, not only have we seen the animation and character designs get a massive upgrade, but the voice cast was able to get some notable names. Stephanie Beatrice from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Alex Brightman, Beetlejuice, who has been working with Madrano for a while now, mostly on Hell of a Boss, Kimiko Glenn, f***ing Keith David.
Welcome to hell, motherfucker!
Given these changes, it seems they wanted to make sure that this project had what it needed to be successful by making sure it had names that appeal to a wider audience. And while animation and voice acting are all critical cogs in the animation machine, so is the story. One of my biggest pet peeves with Madrano's narrative work is that it's not fully formed and thus suffers from plot holes and tone whiplash. There just seems to be an overall plot and a vague concept that somehow twists into something too complicated for what she originally wanted to do. Sometimes keeping it simple is all you need. Narratives with an ensemble cast seem to be both a strength and weakness for her. While each character has an interesting concept and personality, she isn't able to properly give each one their time to shine or develop. But in this series, she isn't doing the narrative work solo. Of the 4 episodes released as of this review, 2 of them include co-writer and 1 entirely is done by someone else, with Madrano only having written 1 whole episode on her own. So with this final cog in place, how does the machine run? Is it starting off strong and smooth, or just puttering and dying before it even had the chance? So, given I have to go into spoilers to explain a few aspects of the first 4 episodes that threw me for a loop in depth, I'm going to try and make this first part as non-spoilery as I can. While I know many other reviewers, in particular cartoon reviewers, are already going into theories and deep spoilers with the series, given we only have half the season available to us, I don't want to ruin it for those who may want to wait until the whole thing is out to binge it. So if you want to avoid spoilers, skip this section of the video and head to the end to hear my final thoughts. The plot of HAZBIN Hotel is as follows. Charlie Morningstar is the daughter of the king and queen of hell, Lucifer and Lilith, the former being a former angel and the latter the first bride of Adam, the first man. After being exiled by the powers of heaven to help the inhabitants of hell, Lilith apparently used her voice to help the citizens grow and thrive. This was noted as a threat to the angels above, and they created a yearly extermination where they go down to hell and wipe out a chunk of the population, pretty much as a power move. However, Charlie has a plan to protect her citizens by giving them a road to redemption. Enter the HAZBIN Hotel. By rehabilitating sinners, she can offer them a way to heaven, and the more sinners that go up to the pearly gates, exterminations can be a thing of the past. But when heaven decides to bump up the time for the next extermination from a year to 6 months, the pressure is on to see if Charlie's far-fetched experiment can really work. With her girlfriend Vaggie and the mysterious radio demon Alistair, can they change the famous porn star Angel Dust, the grumpy bartender Husk, the troublesome and rather stabby Nifty, and the pathetic Sir Pinchus from dangerous, debaucherous, murderous, drug-addicted sinners to good-hearted souls worthy of a second chance? So far in the first 4 episodes, we get to see how the gang, sans Alistair, really gel with each other. The way their personalities clash remind me of a good sitcom. While they're all miserable bastards, they each have a different way of dealing or covering up their issues through their over-the-top personalities. Except Nifty, I think she's just like that. The plot of the story seems to be building up beyond what the initial premise suggests, with there being 2 side plots happening. Whatever the hell Alistair is cooking up to regain his spot as the top demonic overlord of hell, and whatever the hell the demonic overlords of hell have cooked up to help stop the exterminations. Since this is only the first 4 episodes, all I can say is that the pacing so far is okay, but the introduction of new characters is just a lot. Mainly with one character who they're kind of playing up to be a big deal, but if that was the case, they needed to put them in episode 1. However, even though they were just dumping characters on our laps, each one is connected to one of our main hotel guests in some fashion. So this implies that these plots and characters will all converge at some point. Now the main problem comes down the line in future episodes. The setup is there and the stakes are high, but can the writers handle it all? When they eventually collide, will it make sense, and will they have, if not satisfying, reasonable conclusions? I have 2 issues with the story so far that make me worried for the next half. One issue is the tone. Mainly episode 4, which I'll have to get more in depth in within my spoiler section. But once again, I feel that the tone whiplash that I experienced in many a Vivzy Pop production has reared its ugly head. The previous 3 episodes being rather goofy and somewhat dramatic don't take as dark of a turn as episode 4 does. I feel if maybe we got a few more darker moments in the earlier episodes, then it wouldn't have been such a jarring experience. I'll have to go more in depth in the spoiler section, but I will say we definitely needed more serious and quiet moments with our characters in order to just prepare folks. I know that this episode is already causing some controversy, but I will say that, 1, it definitely does need some kind of warning before it due to the extra explicit content in it. 2, it's not a bad episode, it just needed to have a better lead up to that tone. The tone in the episode itself as a standalone is fine, but on the whole of the show it was just, oof. And this also brings up a fear of mine, that now that we know this show is alluding to more serious plot lines, will this keep up for the rest of the show? Will we get more darker and dramatic moments like this? And not just with this singular character. Because to have those moments and then dip back into the silly, singing, dirty joke fest will be equally just as jarring. I know there is a way to balance this, but can they find that happy medium? Honestly, I'm not sure. Another issue is the introduction of a character in episode 3 that really screws up the story as a whole, leading to issue 2, a plot hole. Possibly. This character's involvement throws a big wrench in the plot, and I'm not sure they're going to be able to it up. I can't really go into detail, but just know once I noticed it, it was like pulling at a thread and the whole main plot began to unravel for me. Once again, we only have 4 episodes to go through, but that's also half of the season at this point. So with such a small amount of episodes, you want to make sure that each of your characters has a chance to shine. Charlie and Vaggie don't really have a lot of screen time, considering that Charlie is the main focus of the cast. However, their relationship in this series is very cute. Charlie as the reckless, do-good dreamer, and Vaggie her more down-to-earth practical girlfriend. They complement each other nicely, and especially when interacting with the others, they give off a good cop, bad cop vibe. Angel Dust was a fan favorite from the pilot, and his personality remains ultimately untouched in the main show. I do appreciate how the show gives us hints of his softer side up until his more focused episode with episode 4. Given that it seems he's the toughest nut to crack, to show that he has the capacity to change is very good. Alistair so far is the main one who we don't know too much of what's going on with him. He hasn't interacted with the cast much beyond episodes 1 and 2, but I will say this does work in the story's favor in keeping up the mystery surrounding his character. No one in universe knows his game, as neither do we, but I am interested in seeing what he has cooking up. Husk we really didn't get too into in the pilot, but here he is proving to be a breakout star. I can see him being a favorite quick, as his rough personality and tough view of life works so well, and it doesn't feel redundant with the other tough personality Vaggie, which I have to hand it to them is something hard to do. Nifty is the only one who I feel is getting the short end of the stick, but I'm assuming she's just comic relief at this point, so she does fit that role well. I have to say a surprise favorite character of mine turned out to be one I couldn't stand in the pilot, which was Sir Pinchus. He's just so goofy and pathetic, but in a fun way. He has a sincerity about him that just oozes through. Him and the chemistry between the other guests and even his own little egg henchman is just great. I love him. The animation is vibrant and the movements and expressions of the characters are still just as lively. I feel that the new character designs really helped to make these expressions and movements possible. The old designs were just a bit too detailed, but whoever did the new versions was able to simplify them enough that they still look the same, but definitely look more cohesive and streamlined. The voice actors are great and they do a good job of matching the tone and inflection set for their characters that the pilot did. Everyone's voice seems to fit their character, even the new ones that we see, which is something that I always appreciate. It's one of those things that you don't think about until you notice it, and it can really take you out of the show. As I mentioned before, there are 2 songs per episode, and I just want to say that I'm not sure who mixed these, but the voices get drowned out so badly. If you are listening with headphones, everything is well balanced, but when playing on a TV screen, in my experience, the music is unbearably loud. I had to turn the subtitles on so I could see what the characters were singing. I hope they can fix this somehow down the line because good lord. I managed to listen to the songs again separately, and I only found 2 to be really unnecessary, and both happen to come from episode 3. But the duet of Stayed Gone, the tenderness of It Starts With Sorry, and the fun of Loser Baby are some of the standouts so far. But I do feel like 2 songs per episode is a bit much. Maybe just have 1 song per episode, or just have 1 episode have none. Honestly, I feel episode 4 would have done better with just Loser Baby and You Have Poison for something else. Okay, so episode 3 is where we are introduced to the demonic overlords and find out that the V's discovered that angels can in fact be killed. After a big confrontation with Carmilla Carmine, the arms dealer, we discovered that with this revelation, the V's believe hell can take on the angels on their own turf. Now this could be an interesting angle if it wasn't for the fact that Carmilla was the one who killed it. How? We don't know. Why? Apparently her daughters were in danger, but this just brings up a lot of plot issues. 1. If Velvet suspects that Carmilla knows how the angel was killed, as she alluded to in Respectless, then why is she goading the bitch who can kill angels? Wouldn't you want to work with her? Maybe make her join your side? 2. It would be better if the V's somehow killed the angel using some kind of new machine that Vox invented. Given that all we've seen so far is just him being second fiddle to Alistair, this would probably boost his cred as an actual threat. 3. If the angels could be killed this whole time, why is this just now happening? This episode was unfortunately the start of problems that I mentioned from previous projects of Madranos. I don't think they really thought through the implications of having this tertiary character we just got introduced to having the biggest power, nay, the power that is causing the overall plot of the show happen, not be one of the main villains. Adam himself stated at the start of episode 1 they're bumping up the extermination because of this dead angel revelation. It just throws the overarching plot off the tracks, and I'm not sure they're going to be able to get it back on. Episode 4. Episode 4 is when we finally get an interaction with Angel Dust and Valentino, as Angel is forced to go in and film for Val. Charlie tries to go and get Angel off for the day so they can work on his redemption, but ends up ruining it. Val ends up completely blowing up, and a scene that looks straight out of What's Love Got to Do with the plays out. Like Valentino turned straight Ike Turner. The scene is played seriously, and even the scene after that, which is accompanied by a song, shows a rather graphic montage of not just the emotional abuse, but sexual abuse Angel Dust is forced to partake in due to his deal with Val. And I think that's what's getting me. If you already are a fan of this show and you know the pilot, read the Pico comics and all that jazz, this sudden heel turn in tone isn't shocking. However, for the person just stepping in, I think it's going to be like a complete 180. While we do allude to Angel and Valentino's abusive relationship in episode 2, given how over the top we see Valentino's personality is, I don't think it will sink in for a lot of folks that his rather murderous comments are not meant to be glossed over. I mean, Velvet in the scene before we are introduced to Val calls him a piss baby, and he seems to just be throwing a tantrum. And even though his dialogue is concerning, it's not played as anything to be worried about, really. The main focus draws to Vox wanting to murder Alistair. The context of the scene is kind of implying that, well, all the V's are like that, that's just how they are. And I think that's the main problem, especially when most of the cast is saying violent, horrible things as well as doing a murder. It's going to be hard to tell the audience when shit is serious. I assume this is why they decided to do episode 4 as they did, by going full stop to show that while even members of our own main cast can be violent and say horrible shit, Valentino means what he says and his words are meant to be taken as a threat and not a typical jab. Now, I say all of this, but episode 4, like I mentioned earlier, is not bad. It's a really good development episode for Angel Dust and really gets into him as a character as well as Huss, surprisingly, which I'm so glad they decided to link them together in this episode. It was an unlikely pair that really paid off, and the song Loser Baby fits so well as a way to perfectly encapsulate who they are in this moment. This, I think, also shows what the show is really about: connections and hope. Knowing that even in such a dark and depressing place like hell, you aren't alone. That while you may not be able to change the circumstances that brought you here, you can have hope that one day things can get better. Overall, I find that this is a rather rocky start for the series. While I do feel the constant introduction of characters is a bit bloated, the overarching plot as well as the other subplots are leaving enough breadcrumbs for me to be interested in how they resolve. But it seems that they just can't overcome the pitfalls of other Medrano productions with how these plots are being structured. Given that we still have 4 episodes left, there is hope that they can come back from this. However, with all of this set up and multiple balls in the air, I'm not sure that they can keep them all up. One of those is going to have to flop. I will be watching the last 4 episodes when they come out and will do a complete spoiler review in the future. But for now, that's my thoughts. What do you think of HAZBIN Hotel? Have you watched the pilot or are you coming in brand new? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like this video and you want to see more, leave me a like. Alright, you guys, that's it. This is KylaTea signing out, and I'll see you all in the next one.